You a hype. What? You a hype. Man, ain't nothing wrong with smoking weed. Weed is from the earth. God put this here for me and you. Take advantage, man. Take advantage.
From the beginning, the divine feminine has always been. She is the great mother, the origin from which all life stems. All praise the Most High. The royal is a meetup. The royal is a meetup. The royal is a meetup. Tall panel podcast. The royal is a meetup. The royal is a meetup. The royal is a meetup. Tall panel podcast. Two sisters doing the work of the Most High. On the mission to be the voices of the unheard. We doing a new thing in the earth, as it was written in Jeremiah 31 and 22. We were called from our mother's womb, and we both just want to say thank you to our higher power. Shalom. We on a mission, setting examples for our people. Praying to God every day.
Yes, it does. Indeed. That's the truth. Yeah. Be like, yeah, baby. I'm enjoying myself. So congratulations on your show. You know, y'all doing big things with the show.
Yeah, thank you, sis. Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to make a difference with this community and do our part in assisting with the process of unifying the nation. And helping us to get back to our roots where our ancestors were, and it's going to take each one.
That's right.
Of us to get us there one by one.
We got to take some girl. We got the ladies need. I don't want to say girls, but the ladies, the empresses need to get together. You know, the scriptures say to call an assembly, and so I'm all about returning to matriarch, and just really the females coming together to put some things in order for the betterment of everybody, like what y'all already doing. You know what I'm saying? With your show and just, you know, what you have going on together and individually. I would love to be a part of what you all are doing.
Okay, great.
Bring them, definitely, to bring the ladies together where we can figure some things out, because I believe that we hold the solution. You know, the so-called Black woman or the melanated female, like we're the most powerful in the earth. And so I don't believe no one is coming to save us. I believe that we have the power to do it ourselves and to save the nation, because we birthed the nation. So, you know, they all come from us. Every color under the sun. We are the rainbow.
You better know it.
Yes, ma'am. The world you got people that need you. I feel like we all have a people.
Definitely.
Plural, like so many that need what we have, the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, the know-how. You know? So I just want to, whatever I can do to push y'all to promote what you're doing. You know,
definitely put your contact information in the comment section for us. Since I have my contact information in the comment section as well.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you feel about cannabis, Sister King?
I was just going to say that.
Sister King got a blunt right there. Baby, King gonna smoke, baby. King keeping it real, baby. Oh Lord, I tell you, I knew I was gonna be. I said she catching me off guard. Talk about can I join the meeting? I know that.
You know why? Because I said I know we're gonna be speaking about it. Yeah, but like I said, I have a lot of knowledge of cannabis, but not as one who partakes of it. But because I don't want to put my people's business out there. Let's just say I got a lot of knowledge about cannabis. Indeed. Probably more than I probably should have, considering I don't partake of it. But you know, growing up, of course, you know, I grew up in the era of say nope to dope, you know, and to drugs, right? So weed was always one of the things that, you know, you want to stay away from. But as time goes and, you know, people get to researching and finding out things, that, you know, it does have its benefits, you know. And when I knew we were coming for this program, I was just kind of reading up on some of the benefits, you know, the pros and the cons of it. So I'm like, there are definitely health benefits, but
yes, it is. And I bear witness.
What I came to mind was, and it reminds me is This Rasta told me one time. He said, the weed was in the Bible. I said, where? I don't see nowhere of this, right? So he goes, first he mentioned about the herbs, and then he said, when Moses went to the mountain, he said the burning bush was Mary Jane, and that's how he was communing with the Most High, because he was partaking of the bush. And he said that's what the bush is. So I was so tickled by that. I was like, I said, I can see why you would think that, but come on. I said, you said Moses was up in the hills smoking a spliff. Like, come on.
Right. Right. Now there's a couple things in the scripture. One is called Calamus, Calamus.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a scripture that says the plant of renown. Like this grandiose plant that's just, this healer overall. And so, for me, it's not about using the scriptures because I used to look into it too and try to, validate it with the scriptures. And I still can't accurately say that's what those scriptures they're talking about cannabis. But I do bear witness that it has healing properties. And I was actually in Texas a few weeks ago, and we have an elderly friend. She's probably like 73 years old. And she's just been dealing with a lot of stressful situations. She's going through a divorce, estranged from her family. She's her first time being alone. So she's dealing with anxiety, a lot of different things. And her blood pressure was out the roof. So, now they got these cannabis stores. You can go and purchase it legally. And so, first off, I had already had me some. So, she was just kept asking, and I let her take a little toll and decided to go ahead and get her some because it started dropping her heart rate or what was the blood pressure? It started dropping her blood pressure because, like I said, it was out the roof. So she was able to get her blood pressure from out of the 200s, crazy numbers, down to in the hundreds, where it should have normally been for her. She didn't have pain. Like, this was like I'm watching this happen, in real time over a couple days. Just seeing the benefits and just her energy. It just changed her mood. She was a little paranoid, because she didn't want people smelling it. But other than that, it helped her a great deal. So I'm for it. I know smoking is not good. And so for myself personally, I do take breaks to allow my body to heal and just so I don't become addicted, because it's, something that you can, be codependent or, become addicted to. And I deal with a lot of stress. So for me, it helps me to wind down. And I like to smoke it when I write music, because I look at plants as an energy, spiritual, as if they have spirits. And so I don't abuse the power that marijuana has, but I can say that smoking marijuana when I write, it opens up levels in my brain that being sober probably wouldn't do. It's the same as mushrooms, ayahuasca. It just, opens up because it's a spirit. So it's kind of like a portal. It's a gateway into another realm. And for me, I intentionally smoke it to channel.
See, you said, okay, what you said right there, and that might be the question biblically for like more traditional believers, because the Bible repeatedly speaks of being sober and being vigilant. It says for certain people in leadership, even to be sober, like priests. It didn't speak of marijuana, but it definitely said like they couldn't drink wine going into the temple because, it may cause them to do something or be in error. So you want to be
alert and oriented at all times.
So when you're taking, like you said, it's opening up portals. The problem with opening up your portal, what's coming through?
Right. Well, for me, I tap in with my ancestors. I tap in with my angels, with the ascended masters. And I consider Jesus an ascended master, Buddha, all of these so-called great teachers that these different religions have had. Those are who I consider the ascended masters. And so, for me, I know that I'm protected. I also understand that we're spirits first. You know, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, truly. And so I'm always, the way I look at things is different than just looking at it with a natural eye. So for me, smoking marijuana does not distort my reality. I don't believe.
Yeah, because and I hear what you're saying, and I know there are a lot of people who think along them lines. I know for me personally, I just don't partake of anything. I don't smoke, I don't drink, but I had the almost had the opportunity. Someone, tried to introduce it to me once, and I remember I didn't inhale it directly, but they blew it into my mouth, and I just remember my lungs just seized up on me, and I took off running trying to.
You got it.
And just to piggyback off of Sister Ada, she's referring to 1 Peter 5:8. And so I know that our people is coming from different spiritual backgrounds and religions, and so
yeah, because it says be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So that's what I was, that's one of the reasons why I don't really partake of anything that would, I say, alter my mind, because my mind on its own takes me to different places, because I got a very creative, very just out there mind on its own, so I'm like, I don't really need nothing, because I can sit here for hours and just think really deep on some stuff, on my own. So, but I have heard people say that it's creative, but again, there's a secular way to see it, and then there's a biblical
spiritual
way to see it. Yeah. I'm going to say spiritual. I'm going to say biblical, because there's biblical, there's spiritual, and then there's secular, because you can say spiritual, but that's kind of like a umbrella to a lot of different beliefs,
It's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Definitely. So then what about when the scripture says specifically that drunkenness is a sin? Not to drink,
but
but drunkenness, when you don't have any self-control, you don't know your limits. So, I don't think that God is as uptight as, women have made God to be. I think that, and the reason why is because I know we have free will. I know that when the scripture says you will reap what you sow, that means whatever energy you putting out, that's the energy you're going to receive. So if you're being nasty to people, if you robbing, stealing, and killing, that same energy is going to come back to you. So we do have control, and God is a merciful God. I don't think that, I believe that judgment is in the earth while we're alive. I don't believe that we're going to be judged afterwards, because we have to be held accountable. And ain't nobody you're not gonna escape karma, or you're not gonna escape reaping what you have sown. That's a principle in the earth. So I just say all that to say, I think that God is way more cooler than we could ever imagine. And, in order for the masses to truly accept God for who God is, because I don't feel like God is religious. I feel like God is spiritual only because of the spirit, us being spirits first. We know that the spirit of God is real. So that's why I can say God is spiritual. And so with that, I feel like the understanding, just like the scriptures say, we cannot comprehend who God is with our natural brains, and a lot of that is because of the limited knowledge that we've had growing up. It was only until I started researching other religions and seeing the similarities to Christianity, to Hebrew Israelites, because I was down with the cause, baby. I was a Hebrew, I was in it. And so I remember I was getting ready to go to Belize, and God said to me, I don't want you learning from men, because men lie. I'm going to teach you. That's what God said to me. And so things that I have learned is things that has been hidden by men when it comes to the power of the feminine energy. And so I had to go to God for real, in spirit and in truth, because I sincerely wanted to know the truth. I didn't want to be out here leading nobody astray. Right. Because my first responsibility is to God. That's why I'm still alive. There has been so many attempts on my life where I shouldn't be here. And so I go hard in the paint. And I call God the great mother dragon God. That's who I call God. And so, I'm just here to do my part as far as speaking an uncomfortable truth, things that people have never heard before. I'm gonna put it out there.
Indeed, okay. The ancient knowledge.
The ancient that you have to go to God, because like I say, they have hidden these records, and the only way I know it's real. The scriptures are real, man. Like I believe the word. I love the word of God, and I'm so grateful for the word of God. No matter what anybody tried to do with the word of God still stands. Period. And when you have that relationship, you know what's up. You know how to rightfully divide it. Okay.
Well, then let's get back into this word then, because
let's get into it, baby.
Indeed. We can go to Genesis, right? So when we're talking about herbs, right?
1 and 12.
From Genesis, it tells us it gave us all of the Most High is telling us all that he gave us to eat. And one of those was the green herb. And he gave it to us for meat. And I looked that up in the Strongs. And when it was saying for meat, it's basically that's something we are to consume, to, devour, as in
and that could be seeds.
So when you think of consuming or devouring, that's typically what you put in your mouth. So again, when we speak of cannabis in the sense of people smoking it versus consuming it, I think my personal opinion is it was never meant for us to smoke. I think we were supposed to use it medicinally, to consume, to eat, to put into teas and tonics and for medicine,
right, and tinctures.
Some herbs you can burn for the smell, but for most part you got to ingest it or put it on you for it to have any medicinal value. Smoking it, because there's so many different studies, and I guess it just depends on from what angle they're coming with their study, because one study will tell you that it messes with your cognitive brain power over time.
Okay, last time. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any question?
Another one says it may heal. One said it has a carcinogenic effect on your lungs, but not as bad as cigarettes. So
marijuana has got more cancer-causing agents than tobacco.
How much you want? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, so I've seen people get high and function like it's nothing. And then I've seen people get high and just paranoid, just, like they're getting on your nerves because they just like, what was that? Like I've literally seen people get like that. I'm like, I don't want no parts of nothing that's gonna have me around here hiding and looking for, is that the police? Is that who's that? No, okay, and you know what? Let me pause because we just got to talking because that's how we do. But first and foremost,
but I want to talk about these THC receptors that are in your brain.
We can get on that. But this is the Royal Meetup. I'm your host, Princess of Datekia, and this is our other host, Rafaela Yasharala. And we're in here already discussing cannabis and herbs and healing. We got a variety of different beliefs in the room, just so people know, because we are Israelites, Sister Rafaela and myself, but just so people don't come in and get shot, we got different beliefs in here tonight. So whenever you're viewing this, just understand that, the Royal Meetup is open to anyone to come and chat and reason together, long as we respect each other. And you know what I mean? We're open because this is how you build, this is how you reason, and you never know where you're dropping your seeds to, to help somebody else. One plants the seed, one waters the seed, but the Most High brings the yield, right? So that being said, just keep an open mind as we talk about this subject, okay?
I guess we'll have Raoub to go ahead and introduce himself and tell us what his feelings and takes on cannabis, and then so on and so forth.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, divine beings.
Peace and love.
Acknowledgement to the Creator, identified by some as Most High and other great names, as I'm learning. Um, yeah, and my feelings on the cannabis. I think Princess Adai spoke the method of which it is consumed. Um, that could be the biggest kicker, as well as who's growing it. What are they putting in it? You know, we put so much trust outside of ourselves, and we take things from other people and ingest it and put it in our bodies. I mean, it's just a big risk. You know, I think you always got to be considering how much risk as I'm taking, am I taking? So, you know, from my observation, if I was going to consume it, I would want to do it in a method of tea or probably eating it. Um, Dr. Wesley Muhammad spoke about how they increased the THC, and it really messes with you. I know for a fact that most of our younger people are consuming it, and most times they haven't even built a base or any stability in their lives, so they're not even at a position to consume it in the method of smoking that they do. Um, I know that it appears that the consumption of it is more rapid. It seems like the people aren't even getting high from it. I remember I wrote a joke for my fellow comedians, like, whatever they selling y'all, it's like not strong enough. They just taking your money. I want you to get your money's worth. Shouldn't be doing it back to back within 45 minutes, you know, based on the type of weed when I grew up. You understand what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I just the simple fact that we're not gonna grow. The majority of us, we're not gonna grow it. We're not gonna cultivate it. We're not, you know what I mean. We're missing out on the financial end of it. There's so many aspects, and you know, everyone else continues to capitalize off us. And in closing, when it comes to different habits and things like that, the less habits you have, the less food you have to eat. I'm a student of Dr. Sebi, pretty much raw alkaline. And imagine if you grew everything that you consume, right? So the more habits and the less discipline you have, the more control is going on outside of you. And it would appear that you would want full control of yourself. Like the other divine feminine was saying about man, you know, and it doesn't bother me because man has corrupted a lot. And I like the scripture. It says, put no man before me. Now, of course, somebody will say, oh, well, you taking that out of context. But yeah, when you putting all your faith in another man or anything outside of you, it's just such a risk. You know, you have your intuition, you do your discipline, you're gonna get your downloads, you're gonna get your connection from your creator. And the more quiet you make the world, the more you can hear yourself on the inside. I know I didn't come to minister today, but I do have Reverend Pineal Gland in me as well, a host of other people. But yeah, it's a no for me. It's a no. You got it naturally. Your pineal gland produces DMT, provided it's decalcified and healthy. You got enough to sustain yourself if you invest in yourself. Getting out in nature, like the goddess Rafaela spoke about, grounding, breathing, being at one, finding a way to have peace. That's going to produce the DMT in your body. So you got everything you need. Just put that melanin in the sun and let it do what it do, baby. You heard me?
That
No.
part.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for letting me speak.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Sister Ola, did you want to say something?
Okay, peace and prosperity, brothers and sisters.
Peace and love.
It's lovely again to see you guys again. It's just been lovely. I just returned back from the continent and had to recharge
Yes.
my batteries, you know, dealing with this land that we're walking upon and you don't know if you want to take the shoes off half the time. As for cannabis, I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect. I have used it. I have used it in the method of teas with my anxiety. I'm not gonna say I'm the most perfect Israelite because I grew up as an Israelite, and don't worry, I'm not gonna be sitting around. I just can't do it.
All
I just
right.
can't. I mean, and I live in my apartment complex. My neighbors, they do it all day long. I mean, to the point it smells like burnt couches.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't even smell like it's coffee. What is the smell? It smells like burnt couches and underarms. And I
Mm.
just can't rock with it. But I have used it for my teas, for my anxiety, for my pain. I mix it in with, with cocoa butter and shea butter to use as an ointment because of, some years of being a medical assistant and an aide. I've hurt my joints. Even though I'm a fairly young woman, I have had extreme pain in my back, my knees. Um, and we also got to remember the fact is that, my brother was saying, who is growing it?
Right.
That they'll say that, like in the state of Minnesota, it's becoming more and more legal, but they want to give you these perfect little cards saying, you can have it, but who is controlling it? The same people that are controlling your food, controlling your medical abilities, controlling the water that you drink. Can you really trust that?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everything we're living in a situation right now, everything is being regulated. Even us being on this phone call right now, this meeting is being monitored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Oh
must mean
yeah.
it must mean they ain't got nothing else to do. Yeah, what about some sisters and brothers talking about things that just affect our community? So, like I said, I've used it in teas. Um, I've had people in my family use it for people that have seizures and
Mm-hmm.
make it into a tea. Um, Bath oil to calm
Mm.
down. I've even had friends of mine who have autistic children like myself who have turned it into a body wash to calm their babies down.
Mm.
So, and it does work.
Mm. Interesting.
It does work. I've seen it given to children's food. I had a patient that had cancer, and he was suffering. He was going through the chemotherapy. Poor child couldn't keep anything down. His mom had to make it into a brownie just for him to digest his food.
Wow.
It was that bad.
Mm.
And so, like I said, the Most High, we know what the Creator does. The Creator is going to always give us instructions about what we need to take, what we not need to take. Now, the problem is with us as a people is that we take everything and we indulge. That's humanity's
Right.
biggest issue. We just
Mm.
can't take a little bit and keep on stepping. We have to devour.
Right. Right.
We can never be satisfied with the blessings that we're given. It's just a never ending, just push, push, push. And we have to learn to back up and back up and realize that everything is not meant to be devoured and overindulged. Now, do I agree that everybody should be token up? No.
Right.
So
Right.
to be honest, when we out there and we token up and we're trying to spread
Mhm.
the word of the Most High, they are not going to take us seriously.
Right. Right.
But regulate yourself, just like my beautiful brother said, go outside. We're melanated people. We're supposed to be outside enjoying. The sun loves us.
Oh yeah.
Before any child, that's why when our male children are getting circumcised, we wait 8 days. Why? Because vitamin K reaches its highest level, which is used for healing, the 8th day.
Mm. Mm. Come on now.
So, the Father doesn't just give us any old thing just because, it sounds good. No, He does everything to be regulated from the time we wait, even our menstruation as women.
Mm-hmm.
Everything done in due time. That's
Yep.
why we have to learn that here a little, there a little.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another thing we need to understand as people of, as conscious people, I don't care if you're an Israelite, Kemetic, just into spirituality, whatever you want, we're part of the same community, conscious community, is that everything that we believe in, which is contradiction of anything outside of the Western world, is going to be bashed upon. I just came back from the continent and I saw a bunch of white folks there looking for herbs, looking for teas, looking for tea trees, anything they can get because whatever they're not getting over there in Europe is not cutting it. So they had to come back to the sacred land and learn from the original teachers of how to cure things,
As always.
as always.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to stop allowing outside people that don't look like us to dictate what is considered witchcraft, what's considered righteous or unrighteous, because when they vibrate with the land, it's not the same vibration. We can go into the wilderness with animals and they don't even touch us.
Mm.
We can have rain fall from the heavens, and it just cleanses our spirit. For everybody else, it just wiped it. Turn around, just wipe their houses out. We are earth people, so we should use things from the earth, but do not indulge to the point where you got to pay that kind of money to smell like a burnt couch.
Right.
And then you racking up a bill with your neighborhood weed man with weed on credit. And you can't control yourself, and you playing PlayStation and getting fat. Because it can't cause you to be. We have to get the gluttonous spirit has to stop. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Here's the when it
I
comes
yield.
to marijuana, and I'm probably gonna butcher this, so hold on, I'm gonna sound like a 2-year-old. But it's this THC, which stands for tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the thing that it says it's having a psychoactive compound. So that's the thing that's having people thinking or making them think deeply, or what do you call, everybody gets deep, Have you ever seen this movie? I think it's called Half Baked, with Dave Chappelle, where one of their friends works for a medical marijuana lab, and they get a hold of it, and this stuff is so like the greatest marijuana on earth that everyone who smokes it has different things. But like, there's a rapper who wants to smoke it or something, I think, because he writes better raps. There's another man who he's a writer, and he feels like, when he's smoking the weed, he gets all like, you know what I mean? I mean, even King has said earlier, I think, that when she gets her a little smoke on, she writes her rhymes better, So I would love to know, what is it doing to your mind? You know what I mean? To make you
Yeah.
feel that, oh, now I think better, versus when you're sober that you can't think on that same level. You know what I mean?
Can I give you experience?
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, we one time I did smoke it, and I was with my children's father. We're not together anymore, and I noticed when he would smoke it, he was able to finish calculus.
Wow.
And I'm like, and he had the most. He now once again, I've never smoked before until I got with him, and he made a comment, and he told me something. Corn doesn't have any nutritional values. Now I'm trying to figure out the way conversation me and this man were dealing with. I know he knew the word nutritional. So I don't know if he picked up a dictionary during that time. I don't know. But he was going through the makeup of corn and how it's not no nutritional value. It's only a filler. It passes through your body. He said any other fruit or vegetable, it goes to the system and and absorbed by the body, and then it passes through into something else. He said, but corn looks exactly the way it looks like when you chew on it. He said, if it doesn't break down, then that's something that shouldn't be in your body.
All right.
So, and I'm like, And I don't think it more or less made him smarter. I'm going to say that we live in a world where we are under so much stress and scrutiny. I'm not saying weed is secure, but it puts your mind at ease to finally, because the human thoughts, we have thousands of thoughts within a second. Thousands of beams of boom, 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 and we're supposed to only use 10% of our brain capacity.
Right.
So imagine you have something that will break down those, that the subconscious, all that hidden information that you just glance through, and you get the time to really just stop thinking about everybody else and focus like, why is that is? Or sounds different, because it blocks out the frustration. I would say it blocks out the frustrations of the world, or in some people's cases, some spirits that can be around you. It could be some spirits that are around you.
True.
And now you're not hearing what they got to say to you. You listen to something totally different, and you're focusing on one thing. And now you can excel at this thing, and you can give it your passion. Like I said, I'm not gonna know it for everybody, but I think that could be a basis of it.
Believe it or not, you all,
Okay.
I have never used it or tried it, or I'm that's why I'm quiet, because I don't know too much about it, because I never experienced it. My mother was a pastor, so I wasn't allowed to do even think about it. She said it was the devil.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I believe that all plants are a gateway. So it's just like I remember I was living in nature and had came down with something, and I knew that I was going to get sick if I didn't take something natural that night. And as I was walking back home, I found a dandelion. And so I pulled it and boiled it and made me a tea. And whatever was making me sick, it knocked it out. So, ultimately, plants are a gateway to healing.
Yes.
All plants, all pharmaceuticals, the foundation of them are plants. Everything that they make, all the pills that people take, that's the power that they are actually harnessing to poison people. And so that's a form of energy manipulation because everything is spiritual or energy. But I wanted to read about how there are natural THC receptors in the brain. And it's just a couple things I would like to read if that's okay. All right. So this here says CB1, they call it cannabinoids. CB1 receptors are present in very high levels in several brain regions and in lower amounts in a more widespread fashion. So basically, they're all over the body. These receptors mediate many of the psychoactive effects of the cannabinoids. Receptors have a more restricted distribution, being found in a number of immune cells and in a few neurons. So I believe that depending on the person's energy who's consuming the cannabis, that's going to determine how they act or with it. What do y'all think? Do you think that if a person is in devil energy, them smoking marijuana, especially listen to what we just read, it said that they're in several brain regions and in lower amounts in more widespread fashion. So that sounds like they're all over the body, So for me, I mean, I've never seen anybody act crazy.
I've never seen them act crazy, but they get paranoid sometimes. Some of them.
Yeah. Because I believe that anything that alters the mental state is wrong. That's my personal belief.
Well, see, here's the thing with that. We take medication, right? Because I have some medications that were when I would take them, I was getting dizzy, like loopy and just whoa, you know what I mean? But if someone didn't know that I was on that medication, they probably be like, "She high? What you smoking?" But it was the medication. It was, So it's like I would think that with even though our bodies may have receptors to certain things, like I remember somebody said that about nicotine too, something similar about people smoking cigarettes and the nicotine receptors or something in the body or whatever. But
it's the tobacco.
Yeah,
it's the tobacco that's the calming agent.
Our
ancestors smoked tobacco, the indigenous tribes. It's a spiritual. Tobacco is a spiritual plant. It's a plant.
But they're adding something to it. That's the thing.
Yeah, now
all these plants. Here's the thing. It's back to the usage though, because if you're consuming it like as a medicine or you're eating it as food, even if it still has a little bit of that effect, because like you said, you can eat mushrooms and we eat certain mushrooms, for food, but there's also those ones that send you on a psycho trip, you know what I mean? So,
well, the intention of the mushroom is to make you remember things that you have forgotten. And a lot of it is trauma from this lifetime and previous lifetimes. A lot of people don't believe in reincarnation, but I do. And so I've seen past lives and I've been able to heal trauma from past lives, doing mushroom ceremonies, things that I couldn't remember just with, in the present. I needed to be taken back into time. And so mushroom is almost like an escort to time travel, and going back into time. But I wanted to read this, Empress, and I think I want to see how you all feel after I read this when it comes to, cannabis being in your system. It says, when you are under stress, your brain may release its own cannabinoid molecules to calm you down. activating the same brain receptors as THC derived from cannabis plants. But the brain activity patterns and neural circuits that are regulated by these brain-derived cannabinoid molecules were not well known. So, they are though, but I don't even know where I read that, because of course we know the government created loud. That's a form of marijuana now where it doesn't have any seeds. And of course that's a GMO, anything without seeds. Me, myself, I prefer marijuana with seeds, because everything we consume should have seeds.
Absolutely.
But it has not been that easy for me, but I prefer to buy my marijuana, quote unquote, off the streets, because I know that the people who are getting it, these people been in business for a long time, so they're getting it from, I consider, a pretty reliable source, as opposed to going to a store to buy it. I don't trust the stuff in the stores. And that's the new thing now. It's everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I just found this out a couple of weeks ago, that you can go into a store anywhere in the US really and buy it.
Well, anytime the government gets their hands on something, they're bound to tweak it in a way that,
Yeah, it'll be
where
defiled.
you spend more but get less. You know
Right.
what I
So
mean?
the question is, why are they defiling it? If it was, if smoke, because the majority of the earth is smoking it,
Mm-hmm.
Why are the government, or why is the government defiling the plant if it's supposed to be bad for us? I feel like they know what smoking marijuana does. They knew what tobacco was doing for us spiritually, and cigarettes have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then once everybody started smoking marijuana, now they own that. They have their hand in that. So I think it's more beneficial. And again, smoking is not good for any of us. But I think it's more beneficial for us to consume it than not, no matter how you choose to. But being responsible with it is important for self-preservation.
And why? Another reason why I feel like we're evidence that we should not be smoking it, because it lowers the sperm count in men.
Did you know that marijuana can affect a person's physical and sexual growth?
Yes, that's quite accurate.
And it destroys brain cells.
It kills your brain cells, son. It kills your brain cells.
So
they always, I've heard that often, and I did look that up, and it did say that there were some studies to show that. But again, then how are people getting so enlightened? What is in there, or what is it doing to your mind? Because here, my thing is, I believe that if you fast long enough, you'll have an experience. You know what I mean? I get a lot of clarity after I fast. You know what I mean? On things, so it's like, I know it sounds like I'm just completely against it. I'm not against anything natural if it's used within its purpose, but I don't like to see people abusing it, and that's the problem. A lot of things are not necessarily bad, but like even cocaine, right? The plant itself, there's a medicinal purpose for that. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of these, and I don't know for fact, but I believe like a lot of these medicines, like for numbing, has that as a base. So there is a purpose for it. But then when people start snorting it and smoking it, now you completely took it somewhere else. And that's the ultimate thing is, are you just taking it in a medicinal form because I just need to relax? You know what I mean? My mind is all over the place and I just want to relax and focus. Or is your whole intention simply just to be high? And then why do you want to always be high?
It's hereditary. Our ancestors snorted cocaine. I believe we're from the Americas. I believe that we originated in Peru. And so they have a collection of mummies that they call the cocaine mummies. And so when they discovered these mummies, they were just cocaine everywhere. And of course, the coca plant grows in Peru. There was actually a store that sold it, but they sold it in its raw form. It was still green. it hadn't been, but they were selling it for if your energy was low, you needed, like a spike of energy naturally. That's mainly what the cocoa plant, and then like you said, the numbing agent. So yeah, but it's in the blood. It's in the blood. We remember.
I mean, it's no telling because, like, even when you think about, let's just say the drunkenness, at some point, because like the first instance I seen, like biblically, of someone being drunk was Noah after they came off the ark, and he had fell asleep in his tent, but he was, he was a, what do you call it, a husbandman, the people who tend to the vineyard. So I'm guessing he was partaking a little bit too much of the fruit of his labor, and he passed out in his tent. And we know that story, but that's the first instance I seen of someone being drunk. And then again, when you look back in is it, I think it's in Leviticus, where Aaron's two sons went into the temple and offered up a strange fire to the Most High, right? But they were intoxicated. And then right after that, the Most High ordered that, hey, no more priests coming up in here intoxicated, because look what happens. You know what I mean? So, and then, so yeah, there is a lot of reference to being drunk. So I got to think, if they were drinking and getting drunk, I'm sure they figured out, because by era, probably that certain things you consume gave you a little trip, but as the humans we are, some things we do that are not necessarily good for us, but feels good to us, we overindulge in. You feel me? Because we know, everything in moderation, of course. But when it becomes to an excess, when you can't function without it, when I know people who smoke daily, like daily, constantly, like how people smoke cigarettes, that's how they smoke marijuana. And it's like, I just wonder, I'm not a doctor, but I'm like, what is the long term on this? But then you got to go back to, well, if they're growing it themselves, maybe it's not the same marijuana as you would probably buy off the street or in a dispensary or whatever. You know what I mean? But wouldn't I still go back to, it would just be better to consume it orally, eat it or drink it, or in a medicinal sense. You feel me?
Yeah, I'm with that.
I just really want to understand what the Most High would have to really say about intentionally smoking to get your mind altered in another place. That's really one of the questions I have with it, because if we're not supposed to be drunk, then are we also not supposed to be high? So
is it written?
But that's the thing.
If it ain't written,
I hear you. If there's no law, there's no sin. Okay,
if it ain't written, I don't think it. I mean, it's to each his own, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, health is wealth.
True.
So you have to know and do what's best for you. Health wise, and people, it's a risk.
Because at any moment, you could get a hold of the wrong batch if you don't know it yourself. And that's another risk right there in itself. It's, people are so money hungry. People might put anything out there. It's not going to harm you. But I remember somebody getting upset because they said they bought a bag of oregano or something. Because the man he just sold them some cooking herbs. But it's people get, when it comes to money, people get vicious and they don't care. They're heartless. And so I mean, unless you're growing it yourself. I mean, do you pray? How you do you get to pray to the Most High? Be like, Lord, I just brought me a dove sack. Can you please make sure this, it is what it is? Make sure this is really supposed to be the chronic. Make sure this is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want nothing bad to happen to me. Like, how you pray? Because we pray before we consume. So how you pray over that? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I know who I'm dealing with. Like you said, it's a risk. And the way I see it is, life is a risk, because we can walk outside the door and not make it home. That's the kind of world we living in. So for me, since it's not written, you bring it up, Empress. I'm just like, what is there a punishment for it? I guess that's where the answer everybody want to know.
Well,
Is there a punishment for what is the punishment? It could result in bad health. Are you gonna go to hell for it?
See, where there's no law,
God,
there's no sin. So that's the loophole that people can get by. You know,
yeah.
Because
so it's gonna depend on your relationship with the Lord.
I believe so, but then we are supposed to take care of our temple. Our temple is supposed to be we're supposed to be holy ground. We're supposed to be consecrated to the Most High. So when you think of a temple, like you think about how strict. If you go back and read in Leviticus, or when they're talking about what can and cannot enter in the temple, nothing unclean could go into the temple. And then our bodies in themselves are temples for the Most High. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
what's
if
unclean?
you want to,
because we can talk about the meat thing.
I mean, we can go there too. I mean,
we know what the scripture said. The herbs are meat. So we ain't supposed to be eating animals, but then so what gonna happen to them people if no sin is greater than us?
Because the law gives them permission to eat, and so they go back to the law.
Where does it say in the law that we can eat meat? And I'm not being, argumentative.
In the Levitical part, when it gives what animals are clean and unclean, what you can and cannot.
Yeah, Leviticus chapter 11.
It lays out the.
So God changed God's mind then, because I'm just talking about.
These are Levitical laws. I believe that after Adam and Eve, when the Most High had to give them skins to cover themselves after their sin, I believe that's when it became, because it was considered a sacrifice to kill an animal. So we know the Most High. The Most High definitely looks at. Well, I don't want to speak for the Most High, but if you read in the Word, the Most High feels some kind of way for animals too, because you're not supposed to mistreat animals in the Bible.
Yeah, we can go to Psalms 50, and that's very clear on how God feel about the animals.
Yeah, so
Psalms chapter 50, we're not supposed to touch not one nothing. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Psalms 50.
So Psalms 50 is serious work. And so, for me, it's like, so then, what's going to happen to them people? Because we know a lot of people that have the Hebrew Israelite faith, they eat meat, they slaughter the animals, but we ain't supposed to be doing that.
Well, I don't know the scripture, but it does speak. This is why I'm careful to even try to push too hard on the meat thing, because it's in where it says,
I know we're not supposed to consume blood.
Well, we're definitely not supposed to consume blood or
fat.
So
that's why we eat meat. It has to be kosher.
And it's supposed to be lean, bloodless. The fat, certain parts of the animal belong to the Most High. But since you probably noticed, when it speaks of in the days there will be people who will speak about not giving into marriage, to not eat meat. Where's that? What is that scripture? I think it's speaking of in the last days.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That might be in Colossians.
If we can get that one. But yeah, there's going to always be the argument on both sides, because there are laws speaking on this, and then there's some laws.
Don't judge people not to eat meat.
The whole point, like why we're doing this particular segment and the one we did last month, is because within the Black community, and I'm gonna say, especially with the FBA, us foundational Black Americans, there's a lot of health issues, and a great portion of that is related to what we consume, be it food, drink, or our recreational habits. You feel me?
Yeah.
Too much drinking or too much smoking of the wrong things. I remember I would hear people speak about primos. I was growing up. Somebody was always about somebody smoking a primo, which I think is like marijuana laced with some type of cocaine or something like that, angel dust or something, whatever.
Crack.
I should say crack. But yeah, they would talk about.
Everybody read Colossians 2:16 while sisters speaking on that.
So, but there's a lot of health related issues. Like even myself, I struggle with trying to lose weight, right? But I know a lot of that is based upon, like, I had to completely start redoing my diet, right? And it took me, like, first I was like, okay, I ain't gonna eat no more sugar, right? But that wasn't enough. Then I said, oh, well, let me not eat meat no more, right? But then the weight still wasn't coming off enough. I'm like, what is going on with eating no more meat? But then I realized, oh, you eating these potatoes and different things like that, right? And I was reading in Elijah Muhammad's book, How to Eat to Live, where he was saying that white potatoes were basically like a feed food for cows or cattle. It's more so something that you should feed your animals and not necessarily consume for yourself, right? So that being said, I wondered why there's so many health issues amongst us. You know what I mean? Avoidable health issues. Because if diabetes can be reversed, right, by not consuming too much sugar, watching your carbs, exercising, then what else can be reversed if we would just let go? Like what they call it, the king's meat. You know, there's a scripture that talks about, I don't know if it's in the Apocrypha, where they spoke about the king's meat or the king's delicacies or whatever. I believe that's when Daniel was getting ready to fast, remember? Because he refused to eat the king's food, but he said, give me pulse and this and that, and let's see who's more healthier at the end of his time, you know, if I don't eat his food, right? So, you know, we've been eating the king's meat, you know, and it's having a adverse effect on us, you know, that you don't see, or you didn't used to see, I should say, at one point, you know, even overseas. I remember one of my friends from Nigeria told me that he was always skinny at home because everything they ate was fresh. But when he came to America, he got fat. He said he gained all this weight because he was eating the fast food. He was buying all this processed stuff. Like he wasn't, you know, he would still cook his traditional food, but the ingredients he was getting them from like the market and having to improvise and cut corners and on some things. But you know, he ended up being like really heavy set to the point he was like, I was almost on the verge to need high blood pressure medicine. I had to get off, you know. So he went back home for like a couple of months. But when he went back home and came back, he had lost like 50 pounds, you know, and he felt so much better, you know. So I'm like, what are we consuming in our bodies that is keeping us sick? And it goes from not just eating the meat, but even the recreational, taking the drugs, popping pills, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and preach to nobody about whether you should or shouldn't, because everybody well, I ain't gonna say everybody grown, but in this panel we grown, and people can do as they do as you want to do, you know, because I'm neither a doctor nor, you know, anybody's parent. So
we're just having a healthy
but
conversation, you know.
I do believe we should be mindful, because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy, but when it comes to Black folks, I always feel like something trying to take us out.
You know, there's a spiritual warfare going against us right now. We have spiritual warfare, physical warfare, mental warfare. I mean, we have everything coming at us to destroy us, but they're scratching their heads right now trying to figure out why we're not all wiped out yet.
By the grace of the Most High.
Definitely.
Okay.
You know, it's like what God was saying. Like I said, I just came back from the continent. You know, my he's from Ghana and Togo, and even me eating fast food over there, I didn't get sick. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I'm eating a fried chicken sandwich over there, and I'm eating it. I'm okay, and I noticed everything I ate, it came right out. It wasn't taking too long in my system. It was coming right out. Started eating. My husband, my nieces came over. They started cooking me food. They said, "Auntie, eat this. Auntie, eat that." When I came back, the first thing my daddy saw when he looked at me, he thought I was pregnant. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Because your skin is glowing."
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, well, one thing, you're in an environment where you had heat all the time, so you're sweating out all your toxins. You're pushed to drink water. Well, in my husband's language, they call it SC. Drink water every day. Drink water. You're not going to be drinking soda pop like that."
Yeah, we need to stay hydrated. That's very important. Stay hydrated.
And I got sleep. And another thing I think is the issue with a lot of us is taking the cannabis is because we're under so much stress we can't even sleep.
That's true.
Yeah.
You can't even sleep. You're dealing with your mind doesn't stop. And I don't care what anybody says. If you were born on this land and you've encountered the other people, because our ancestors have encountered the other people, we have not had a day's rest.
No. Not in the last 400 years.
Can I
You know, we
ask?
dealing with these jobs, we dealing with these other nations reigning over us and telling us what to do, where to come, when to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know how stressful that is?
Mm-hmm.
You
What you
know?
said, King?
What you say,
I was
King?
just wanting to ask, why are you stressed? Because we have the power. You have the power to create the reality that you want in the midst of your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be stress free.
Personally, I feel like I am. But when you walk outside your doors and your home and you have to go out here dealing with these people on
But
these
why?
jobs.
Because what you said it right there.
Yeah,
Why don't you have your own business?
I do. I have two.
Okay.
I
And
work
so
from home.
what can we do to assist you to grow in your business? Because we all got this. For me, this reality can be heaven or it can be hell. You choose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You
So if
know,
I want,
we have to
yes,
market each other.
that
You
we
know, we
got, so
see.
that's what I'm saying. You should be stress free. You should be doing what you love. We were created to enjoy this earth. The curse is up. You can be cursed if you want to. I choose not to.
Mm-hmm. That's
That
true.
what's written in that word, it does not
Mm-hmm.
apply to me. I broke the curse. I healed myself. I healed my
Mm-hmm.
bloodline. And this journey is of life for me for the rest of my days. It's going to continue to
Mm-hmm.
be a healing journey. And I'm going to do what I love and I'm going to be successful. I love myself. I believe in myself. I
Right.
know who I am.
But see,
And
this
so,
is another thing, sis. we
yes,
affect one another.
yes, we do.
So
That's what I'm saying.
collectively, our people is stressed.
It's
Mm-hmm.
true.
You
It's
They're
know.
true.
allowing it.
Yeah.
It's true. They are. And so, what better way to show the people than by example? Because talking we wasted our time. Not saying
Mm-hmm.
not talking about your show or anything. I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
I don't waste my breath on certain things. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
fight no more. I protect my peace now.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
gonna be
Yes.
like no ego, not like my peace, baby. I walk away, I'm out. I'm focusing
Mm-hmm.
on the bad, on my
Mm-hmm.
self-love. I feel good. I've been pouring into myself. I'm successful. I'm making things happen, doing what I love, making money. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're supposed to be doing. That's what each and
Absolutely.
every one of us, we're supposed to be focusing on ourselves, doing what we love and helping each other. So,
Absolutely.
so right here, we got a 5-pack. We still got a 5-pack. We got a 6-pack. Praise the Lord. Okay. So
I
listen. So the
know
six
that's
of us,
right.
each one, the six of us on this phone right now, we need to share with one another
Mm-hmm.
what it is. If you're not already doing what you love as far as your own business,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we need to help each other do that. When it comes to business, I can help you get it started, registering, all of that. You don't have to, there is no fear. The Lord is not giving us a spirit of fear, but power, love, sound mind. So
That's
you can do
right.
whatever you put your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I definitely believe in supporting each other. My money don't
Yes,
always let me support, but I'll share your stuff, or tell
yes,
somebody else
Absolutely.
about
That's
it. You
what
know
I
what I
love.
mean?
Likewise.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of
and
fact, put your
yes,
businesses in the chat too.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
please. And I'm in a position to start supporting financially because talk is cheap, but it takes money to make money.
Yes,
It
it
Ain't
truly.
does.
that the truth?
Mhm. And so, even getting the credit fixed, I can do all of that. I can help you get your credit straight. If you need what is it called? It's a service that's provided to help boost your credit score. A trade line. If you need a trade line, I got the club for that too. You utilize a trade line when you need a credit boost, and I got
Mm-hmm.
somebody who can boost that credit about 100 points, so
Mm-hmm.
you can get the business
Okay.
loan that you need. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
that's
put
time. I mean, it's time for us to step out on faith and believe in ourselves. I'm done.
But I was gonna ask Sister Ola, because you were speaking about people giving their children the cannabis oil, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember when my mother was sick, she had stage 4 cancer, and towards she started deteriorating. She couldn't sleep. Like sleep just was like, we would give her these medicines that would knock the average person out for hours. She would doze for maybe 30 minutes or so, and she'd just be up, and we just couldn't get her no rest. So finally I broke down, and somebody was like, get her some CBD oil, because and I was worried about, I don't want to get my mama high, but they said they take out the THC and it's just supposed to be the oil. But I can say that it gave her relief, it worked for a little while, the disease eventually didn't respond, but for a while she was able to get rest off of that oil. But I remember my brother-in-law telling me, because I had back pain, he was like, oh, it take you a little bit, but I was so afraid because it's the cannabis. I'm like, I don't want to be getting high, you know what I mean? But I never did take it. But what do you feel like, about that? Is that safe, even for children, the CBD oil?
Well, because I don't, sisters don't want to get her kids taken away. Because you gotta be careful.
Let's say for adults.
I will admit this. As some you and my beautiful sister Rafala know, I have 3 autistic children, and one of my baby boys has epilepsy as well as autism, and he's hyperactive. And sometimes I cannot get this child to lay down. He will run. I'll put him down at 9:30 p.m. for bed if he had a good meal in the bath, and he's back up at 1, and he will stay up. So, and he's getting into things like that. So one day I had to take some CBD to give it to him, just to calm this child. And I was afraid, and I talked to his neurologist about it, and I said, and he said, we'll do what's best for you and your baby. I said, well, when I gave him a little bit in a bath oil, he calmed down.
Wow. Okay. So it works.
It works, and but here's the key. Just like everything else, it's like some people say, give your child melatonin. It doesn't work for every child. Reason why? Because we naturally build up a tolerance. So that's the reason why a lot of people, they say they smoke weed and it's not that the high is gone, because they build up a tolerance from that level and that strand, and they need something else to stronger to really get them there. So what I found is that if I do give my son, put in the bath oil, mix it in, because I took care of a client that had something like Lou Gehrig's disease, like ALS. And it helped him because he was in so much pain. He was a white man. He was in so much pain, his bones will lock up. Instantly, it will lock up. You couldn't even bend his legs down for him to be able to get into his wheelchair. That's how bad it was. So his wife would have to sit there, and they're very conservative. And she would put in his food bag because he couldn't eat. So he had a feeding tube, and she would pour it in there, and it would calm him down so he can sleep at night. Because he has so much anxiety because of this condition of mucus filling up in his throat. He would think he would drown in his sleep.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad. He went through that for 20 years. Eventually lost his ability to talk, and he passed on later on. But I learned a lot from that woman. And when she said, try to get a little CBD, and I gave it. One day I rubbed my baby down. I separated from his brothers. I went to a separate bath by himself. He started to calm down, and he just went down to sleep. And I said, oh, thank you.
So it does work.
But like I said, everything has to be done in moderation.
Yeah. Right.
It has to be done in moderation. I would rather give it to him like a little oil in his bath than give him something, then roll up one and let him breathe and give him a tone or something like that. Or
I find that lavender oil is a good one too.
Yes.
Like calming. I even rub it on me sometime when I'm like feeling like I can't sleep.
I shake it on my pillowcase before I go to sleep.
And that's the thing. I believe there is definitely a natural remedy to whatever they prescribe you. I do believe that there's a natural herb somewhere that mimics that thing, I was even talking to my brother-in-law about it, and he was like, you just gotta put your medicine in and figure out what it is, and then you can find the herbal combination for that same thing, because like, for instance, if you got high blood pressure, turmeric is a good one, you just gotta be careful because it is also a blood thinner. So and anything we're saying, let me just put it out there. Anything we're saying, we're not doctors. So
right.
Don't go out here doing stuff. You're like, oh, what Royal Meetup said,
Oh yeah, check with your physicians first.
Please check, please. Okay, everything we're just talking, okay? This is a conversation, but I could definitely say that lavender, because I was trying to take melatonin for myself at one point, but then
and eucalyptic, I think it's called eucalyptus oil.
Eucalyptus,
it's great for respiratory tract.
Oh yeah,
issues.
I was taking that herb too. I had that. I would make it into a tea. Because I get a lot of herbs. I know, let me say my plug, but but there's a brother by the name of John Miracle. You can look him up on Facebook, but he sells herbs, and I get a lot of my herbs through him, and he introduced me to a lot of herbs, so like that's how I learned about dandelion for
passion
inflammation.
fruit. Passion flower is good.
The elderberries and
ashwagandha.
It's this one I take called Uvi Ursi, and I gotta look up again. But it helped me with my breathing and things, But there's just so many herbs. Like I take a wormwood, but even like with the wormwood, you still got to be careful because it can have some negative effects, I believe, on your liver, I think, or it's one of them. It's one of your organs, but a little bit here and there, it's good for killing parasites. Wormwood,
parasites, cleansing the blood.
But I will
they say don't go past 2 weeks at a time using them.
But if you're gonna use that milk thistle and wormwood, you best be near a toilet because this gonna clean you out.
Oh yeah,
but
it tastes terrible too.
But the Bible speaks of that too, hyssop. And I'm like, I need to get me some hyssop because it's a purifier. Yeah, it's a purifier. So even when David was saying purge with hyssop, that might be speaking more in the spiritual sense of being clean, but also there's a physical taking of the hyssop, to clean yourself, So those things we hear like in the Bible, frankincense, myrrh, these are things you can actually use. It's not just some holy oil or some holy something to smell good. These things have medicinal value as well.
Yeah, use it every day.
Yeah. So, and I didn't even know you could cook with like myrrh and stuff. I always get the myrrh scented oil. I'm like, oh, you can cook with this? Like what? So yeah, one of my mother's favorite things to consume was garlic. And I used to hate it, but now I try when I think about it. I pop me a couple of garlic cloves, and I've gotten better with. I could just chew them up and drink them down real quick.
Yeah.
But we got to get that garlic in us. Onions, even though they're not technically a herb, but they help a lot with a lot too as well. You make a good onion tea. Because my mother, when my daughter was born, she had hives, and I remember her telling me boil some onions. Give her some onion tea. I'm like, onion tea? Give my baby no,
Yeah, I remember my grandfather told me that red onions were a great blood purifier.
Yeah, but I gave my baby the onion tea, and it helps with her colic and some other things, So, and that's another thing, we got to get back to this natural. We don't have a lot of grandmas and big mamas and memas alive anymore. So, if we were privileged or blessed to even have them, we got to tap back into those memories and remember some of the stuff, because I remember my grandmother used to grow mutlin, and then she would make the tea out of it, like she'd have so many things around the house that wasn't just for eating for pleasure. It was like medicine. And she used to have this one, oh God, it stank. But they would put it on, she'd get like an old t-shirt or something and put it and rub it on there and tie it around.
And another thing, ladies, a lot of those weeds in your backyard are herbs. And we be plucking them up and burning them and throwing them away.
What is she said? Yeah, but we, like sister was mentioning earlier about, we gotta know what's witchcraft, and they're telling us which is witchcraft and what's not when it comes to herbs, because that's a slippery slope, because you do have people who practice hoodoo who use a lot of herbs, root magic, but at the same time, that doesn't mean because you stock up on herbs that, oh, you must be a witch because you trying to, you know what I mean? Like I said, I was my mom tells the story. Well, my sister was sick and my grandmother had tied that stuff on her. And my dad freaked out. I hope he don't kick me for telling the story, but he had freaked out because he was like, thinking this is something that Louisiana voodoo or something. He didn't know what it was, but it was just the natural herbal remedy for her cold. So yeah, we gotta we trust more in Western medicine than we do in what God put here on the earth for us.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Right. Because this Western medicine is actually witchcraft.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, somebody said it to me a long time ago. He was like, "That's the real witchcraft. Is the what they call,
and it started with the Rothschilds. What's the other 1% of families?
I mean, because if you think about medicine in general, think about a lot of the things that they use to save our lives came about by some diabolical and cruel things, like the experimentations they were doing on the slaves, how they were picking up homeless and poor people and just, getting bodies and, experimenting on people. Now, how you think they learned how to cut on people and do all this stuff? You know what I mean? Because they was
practicing on the slaves. Yeah,
practicing on people. Because I was looking at something. I don't know what it was, but it was like back in somewhere in England, way back in them Jack the Ripper days or something, where these medical students would go and find, prostitutes or poor children, and come get them just so they could not sacrifice, but experiment on them, cut them up, and see what are the body parts and see how things, were doing. So they were real morbid like that. So medicine, it has its pros and it got a lot of cons. So if we could figure out a more natural way to ease what we're going through, you know what I mean? Because by all means, I'm not going to tell nobody what to do, but if an edible can help you, and that's better than taking some, these psycho meds they want to give people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I look at those ads and it was like, oh, take this if you're depressed, but then it's like the side effects may cause suicidal thoughts. So I won't be, you know what I mean? Wait a minute. I'll be able to get some sleep, but I might want to kill, unalive myself. Like, what kind of mess is that?
Another thing that will help us is education, because a lot of us are depressed because of all these dead foods that we're eating. It's the foods that we're eating that's affecting our moods, our psychological states. A lot of times it's just the foods you're eating.
Yeah. I think that affects our menstrual cycles too. That's probably why a lot of sisters got so many fibroids,
Yep.
They say it's from the relaxers, but I believe even before that, they were experiencing that because it's something in this food. It's something.
Unclean foods.
Yeah. What are we consuming? What are we putting into ourselves that is causing, that coupled with the stress, and some of that stress comes from trying to live the so-called American dream. We out here chasing a green dollar. We want the house. We want this. What they say, the house, the car, the 2 point
chasing the bag.
Children. Everything in America, because it's such a capitalist country. So most of that stress revolves around money. Not having enough of it, can't make it quick enough. Don't have enough for what you want, and then that's also from keeping up with the Joneses, because you're looking around and seeing everybody else with all this stuff that you want. And there's an old song in the 70s says, "Be thankful for what you got."
That's right.
And that's what a lot of us are not able to do. We're not grateful. And I wish King would be here, because she might have stepped away, but
she's still on here.
If she come in here and tell us about that simple life that a lot of us could not do, but like she said, she restarted, but she went back literally to the basics. She Adam and Eve did for a while,
Yeah.
And a lot of us can't do that, but that's probably another reason why she don't have stress, because she figured out what a lot of us haven't, that you don't need all of that to be happy, but a lot of us feel we do.
Right.
True. Less is definitely more.
Yeah, we have to return back to nature.
To worry about the better. For me, I'm a true minimalist. So when it's time to move, I just pack up a couple bags and I'm out of there. But now that I'm being restored, I want what I deserve. I'm under royal priesthood. So I want everything that God promised to the tribe of Judah and beyond,
Indeed.
And I'm putting in the work to get the results that I want to see. And so that's really what it's all about. Ultimately, is choosing to love yourself. Because when you choose to love yourself, then you're gonna do what's best for you. And the more people that
Absolutely.
start doing that, the better. Because we can't save nobody.
Right.
Everybody got to pull their own weight.
That's in the scripture. You got to save yourself.
Yeah, even the children, because these children, they're not normal children. You know, in my mind, what I believe, the children are the ancestors coming back to assist with this new earth.
Yeah.
That God promised us, a new heaven and a new earth. They're the closest to God. The children are the closest to God. They have not been tainted. Okay, they have not been indoctrinated. And so for anybody who has children that are still babies and, you know, young children, let them be free mentally, support the way they think, let them do what makes them happy, because they're on a whole nother level. Like, these children are, you know, we used to read, like I was on the Black History and Cultural Brain Bowl team. So we learned about famous inventors and just like wonderful, very powerful Black people who created things. And so now we're going to see a surge in that same energy and that creativity that was going on back in the, you know, the, what I would say, the 60s, even the 50s, when it was just all these new inventions, the ironing board, the hot comb, the perm, the this, the that. You know, even a Black woman created the internet, baby. We created it all. The drone, you know, a Black woman.
Cell phones.
So, everything.
Yeah.
So now we're going to see that same energy in the children, because they're so open to, like, the children are just open to anything right now. They don't have nothing. And so God is going to pour her spirit on all flesh at this time. And so I'm just telling you all to please let your children be free and encourage them to tell you, what do they love to do? What do they want to do? Our children don't have to go to school for 12 years and be indoctrinated and go get a bunch of debt in college. They're ready to be business owners right now.
Right.
They're ready. And so, you know, this should bring the family together, right? And the family working together, because the adults know the way or can find a way to help that child have a successful business. And we start creating this generational wealth so that we can break the curse of poverty. Because when people are in poverty, they go crazy. When they can't eat, they go mad. When they can't afford it. And so that is like the number one issue with the so-called African American people. Our parents couldn't leave us a inheritance. The majority of us have not had that. So we have had to, so it's a generational curse that we must break. And so it's going to start with us.
That's right, sister. I believe, yes, I agree.
And self-love, getting ourselves right, getting yourself together. You can't pour from an empty glass. So you finna build yourself up. You're going to pour into yourself. And when you start to overflow, now you can overflow into other people, but you got to take out the time. And so that's what I did. I took out time. I had no choice. And the healing is in nature. So I slept in a tent for 2 years on a deserted beach in New Orleans. And the power of God was there. The power of God was there. And so, you know, that's what we need. We got to get back to nature too. That's going to be important for all of our healing. You know?
Yes.
And so, you know, I mean, whatever, setting up retreats and just gatherings. We were talking earlier, Empress Rafa, about, you know, a couples retreat in nature and just teaching married couples how to, you know, be responsible to one another, for one another, how to self-love. Because even if you're married, if you don't love yourself, you can't love the person that you marry. It's not going to work.
That's true.
It took me 30 years to learn that.
It's true. And people need to know that, because people don't get it. Because like you said, we have to work 40, 50, 60 hours. We don't have time for ourselves. One day on the weekend, you got children, baby, you ain't got no time.
Right. Ain't that the truth?
And so I want to create the return of the village, a space where especially single mothers and children can come and have other women help take care of their children while the mother takes out time to heal, takes out time for herself to recharge. Because in my world, the Black woman is God. All nations on this earth was born through her womb. We are the rainbow. We have the power to change the world. we have yet to come together like the Black men did. They had a Millions Man March. They came together, no problem, no beef, no bad publicity. It was all good. We got to get there. And it's going to start with self-love, because it's a lot of bickering and fighting and hate and jealousy and envy and all of that between the sisters.
Yeah, it is. Competition.
It's all that, and we got to cut it out. And once you love yourself, you will understand that you're only competing with yourself.
Exactly. You preaching, sister.
It starts with us. And so, like, you know, all of us that's on here, we need to take out time for ourselves and continue doing that. Make it a habit. Self-care. A self-care day. You know, where you know your worth. You know, baby, I'm worthy of everything. If I want 20 million in the bank, I'm worthy.
That's right.
If I want a $500,000 house, I'm worthy. If I want a butler and a maid, baby, I'm worthy. Okay.
Come on.
We have to know our worth. And that starts with self-love, and that's what's going to really get this thing going. And I feel like, you know, all of us on here, we there. We just got to keep pushing each other and, you know, keep doing what we're doing. You know, keep doing what we're doing. But I do think we need to figure out something that we can do, an event that we can hold where the ones that's on this call can all chip in and make it happen.
We can, if we put in the energy to do it, it can happen.
You know,
matter of fact, like Sister Ada was saying, October. How about October?
Now, y'all not gonna mind the cold, but we outside in nature, baby. We gonna have plenty of wood to burn now. But
and you know, and I think that is October is near the time where we have Tents and Tabernacles.
Okay. Yeah.
So all that is running in at the same time. So maybe
we could do like some land.
Yeah.
Some land to pitch tents. And we can build the rest around that.
Look here, if y'all get me out to the woods, I might just need a little bit of cannabis.
Well,
you all could pitch your tents right here in my back in our backyard.
I don't do nature too well.
I have a backyard. We could pitch tents right out there.
How many guests can you accommodate?
Maybe 4 or 5 or 6 at the most.
Okay. I mean, I think, you know, a core group is good to start with, so we can come, you know, be in the presence of God. God, when Solomon built the temple of the Lord that was promised to his daddy, King David, the God let Solomon build it, but once Solomon built it, God said, "Baby, I don't dwell in nothing made with the hands of man. I dwell in the thick darkness. I'm in the darkness. I'm in the part that they say you should be afraid of. That's
I dwell within you," he says.
Listen, yes, and in nature, in the thick darkness, in the presence of the Lord. So I'm excited. I'm pleased. Well, the sooner the better. If we can do it in your yard.
Let me ask y'all this before we get to planning how to save the world. What's our sum up on this? You know, we didn't get to talk as much on the herbs, but again, I would urge everyone to whatever, especially those people who are on medication, to look up your medicine and see the herbal equivalent to that. You know, to see if you can't get you know, kind of wean off of some of this witchcraft. You know,
definitely.
And as far as the cannabis goes, I do believe that it's each individual is definitely going to have to pray on and search within themselves. But if you're doing it in excess, if you're doing it to the point where you're risking being, you know, going to jail over it and, you know, all of this other kind of stuff, like, you need to sit down and ask some serious questions to yourself, you know, because at the end of the day, we don't want to harm our bodies, you know, in your pursuit of raising yourself to a higher level, you know, don't do anything to harm your temple. You feel me?
Right.
Like your mind is high, but your body low because you keep, you know, putting things in it, you know, that's destroying it, you know?
Yeah, definitely read 1 Corinthians 3:17. Everyone on here, I encourage you to read that. That's the consequences of not honoring your temple.
Yeah, because, man,
definitely
you definitely got to be careful, you know. Yes. And I would tell people who eat meat, you know, You say you gotta give it up, but try, not to eat it so much.
Guess what I
Maybe
cooked tonight, you guys?
what's that?
What
I made vegan spaghetti.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I made my meat out of walnuts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, honey.
Yeah. Wow. You got a processor? A food
Yep,
processor?
a food processor. Yes.
Uh-huh. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
How was it?
Yes. We haven't had it yet, so we're gonna partake of it after the
Okay.
call.
All
But
right.
that's what
We
I
need
made for
5
dinner.
stars, baby. We need
There's
5
meat
stars.
substitutes, there's medication substitutes. We can
Yeah.
substitute everything with natural, homegrown, plant-based products or foods.
Look, Miss Lashana, you used to be eating good out there when I see some of your pictures.
What,
when
baby?
y'all was
Listen,
when you was
God
eating this,
provide. Hey,
y'all used
long
to
as
be
you got
eating
some wood,
good.
I'm telling you, long as you got some wood to burn, man, I'm comfortable anywhere in the world, whether I'm inside or outside.
You're a free
Mm.
And
spirit.
I prefer to be outside, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like it's just
Me
it's no
too.
limit. I'm not confined to a small space, to a square footage. I have
Yes.
like the whole earth. I feel like the whole earth is mine. I'm outside, baby. I'm in the
Yes.
jungle. I'm wild and free. Okay. And
I
we
like.
eating.
Yes.
Ooh,
Praise the Lord.
I like out. I
Yes.
love the outdoors, but more so at night. Um,
Yes.
Me
but
too.
I don't go outside as much out here in Texas because especially in the summer, because these mosquitoes be on some
Hmm.
other stuff. They be like
That's right.
these mosquitoes be gang banging on you in Texas. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But
You got to get your fire going. And I hope
man,
that's
Yeah.
what we can do at your place, Empress Rafa, is we can have some
Yeah.
fires.
Yeah.
That's going to be
And
very important.
we got tiki lamps here, tiki
That's what's
lamps.
up.
And if you take some fabric softener, the fabric softener with the sheets,
Hmm.
rub it on your skin, that'll keep the mosquitoes off of you.
Nice.
mm.
That's what's
Yeah.
up.
Kitty, look here.
Okay.
It
Oh.
helps. I don't know if it'll
Yeah.
totally cure the situation, but I know it helps.
Hmm.
Mm.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Oh, the
And
truth.
I wrote a book. I wrote a book too, sis. So I put that information there as well.
Yes, I saw it. Congratulations.
Tawada, thank you. Thank you. It's one of the hardest things I had to do. But I did it. I got it done.
That's
Uh
beautiful.
yeah, thank you.
Sure. Yes. As soon as you
Okay.
finish.
Okay.
All right,
Appreciate
y'all. It
y'all
was
so
nice
much.
talking to you. I'm so
Yes.
it was truly a
Everybody.
blessing talking to you
Yes,
all
it
tonight.
was.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I hope you can come back with us next month. We're gonna be talking to mothers and daughters and talking about mommy issues and mother and daughters
Ooh.
having
Not getting
conflict with one
along.
another, not getting
Mm.
along, competition, jealousy,
That's
Mm-hmm.
try to get to the
my
root of
own
this.
my own mama insurance policy to take her baby girl out. So I got a
Mm-mm.
story to tell.
Oh.
Yeah, man,
Mm-mm.
it's real to hate to where your own mama want to
Woo!
kill you. That's a curse.
Well,
Yeah, it
that's
is.
in Deuteronomy.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so
Yeah.
I'm having to break that. I recognize
Willie
I call.
Lynch.
That's right. I put
Mhm.
them on blast and let the world know what was going on. And the protection is real.
Indeed.
Well,
I'm
you
telling
tell
you,
a
just for
friend
your
and you come back and tell us and
enemy. I
Oh,
will.
that's
yeah.
right.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am. Indeed.
Indeed. So
I love y'all. I love y'all so much. And definitely, please, let's stay in touch. And I'll see you ladies.
Yes.
Gonna make this happen for next month.
That's right,
yeah,
please.
so y'all put it out there, tell your friends, tell all your sister in and you know,
Yes.
tell them to
Most high
join in.
willing.
And let's see if we
Yes.
can, because I think some of our sisterhood issues are stemming from from the mother daughter dynamic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's a trickle down effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you got to get to a place of forgiveness. That's how
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
break that curse. You
Indeed.
know, you got to get to that place and where you forgive yourself and forgive your mama, and
Mm-hmm.
you can move on and be
Right.
released from that thing.
Yeah.
So
Indeed.
you
Indeed.
just tag me, Empress, and I'll
Okay.
share it and put the word out there. But I think once they see us all together,
Mm-hmm.
that will make the biggest impact. To see us actually together in the same place.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Y'all have a
All
good
right.
evening.
All right.
Y'all too. Shalom.
Shalom.